So, thank you for joining me for this Tuesday talk. This is our first Tuesday talk of 2024. So, you are our special guest. Thank you so much. For our live listeners who have joined us today, I'm just going to cover a couple of housekeeping items first. On these calls, you can ask questions live. And we do like audience participation, so don't be shy. I encourage you to ask questions. How you can do that is either on the top or bottom of your Zoom screen, depending on how it's set up. There's a Q&A button. Click on that, and then there's a field where you can type in a question. There's also a box that you can click that says anonymous. If you don't want anybody to know your name, it's completely up to you if you want to click that box or not. But please ask questions as Brady and I chat over the next 30 minutes. Does that sound like a plan, Brady?
Sounds great.
And I will watch the Q&A box. You don't need to watch that. I'll make sure that I get those questions asked as we go through our conversation. So to start off, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Sure. So my name is Brady Schwab. I'm the Chief Growth Officer here at Right at Home. Been since October of last year. My background's in hearing healthcare, so I really spent the bulk of my career initially as an audiologist working directly in patient care, and then moved into more of the hearing healthcare kind of integrated offering. So worked in sales in hearing healthcare around hearing aids and account management to practice development to M&A, and then also worked on the multi-unit retail on the hearing aid side. So did a lot of really fun and interesting things with hearing and hearing aids and working with the senior community, and then really excited to be part of Right at Home and both with our mission and culture and getting to work with entrepreneurs and business owners develop their business, doing something that I think really has a huge and fantastic impact on society and our communities. So it's really a blast to be here and really excited about what the future holds. And of course, I get to work with you, Jen. So that's always
nice. Brady, thank you. You know what? I caught something. You can no longer say, I've been with Right at Home since October of last year, because that's no longer true now that it's 2024. So you've been with us for well over a year.
You fact checked me right out of the gate, so I appreciate that.
I know. I'm watching you like a hawk, so be prepared. All right. So we're going to start off with just the very simple stuff. So the people who are watching this webinar right now are people who are interested in joining the Right at Home system. So really a couple things that they're looking for is, just from your point of view as the Chief Growth Officer, just your overall take about Right at Home and what their journey is going to be like as a franchisee, and what you and your department, your team, really what you do to help and support those franchise owners on their journey, being a franchise owner with Right at Home. So let's start with at the very beginning. So when you joined Right at Home, what was your initial focus? And really, how has that evolved since you've been here a little over a year?
Yeah, so my initial focus kind of within my role was to support growth, right? And to me, it kind of came down to a couple different kind of buckets or categories that I like to think of. One is kind of our horizontal growth, and of course that's how do we work to bring more fantastic owners into the system and help some of our owners that maybe are looking to retire, transition their businesses. So that's obviously what we do together, Jen, and really the part of the business growth that you lead with your team, and fortunate to get to work with you from that perspective. But the other categories are really, for our existing owners, how do we help them grow their business, and doing that through bringing new products and services on the innovation front, and kind of continuing to evolve our business model, and that comes in a lot of different flavors. And then we have our corporate owned locations that serve as kind of our test kitchens and test beds for some of our innovations, and have been involved in kind of the acquisition and transition of some of those businesses as well. So, growing our corporate-owned portfolio to really be in the business alongside our franchisees and being really close to those daily challenges and how we can solve them in new and different ways.
Okay, so I am going to focus of those three really kind of buckets that you described. I'm really going to focus on the innovation part for this particular conversation, just because I think that that's the part that's going to be most forward-facing to the audience that's listening today, and it's really going to kind of change and improve, our business model, if you will. So let's start there. So how do you even begin to explore different ways to help with innovation of our business model? Because there's so much out there. There's a ton of options. I've been with you on that journey. I've been exploring different options, but where do you even start? Like, how do you choose? Like, I suppose you look for like the franchise owner feedback, what's the need, what's the ask, and then what's out there. Just kind of walk me through that process of finding the best opportunities that fit the best with our brand and our model.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I think there's a couple different lenses that we use, and one, as you mentioned, kind of that the franchisee feedback, and we're lucky to have a really strong franchise community. We have our strategic leadership council. That is really, our connection and conduit to the system, and the franchisees that sit on that are fantastic at both supporting the system, supporting us on the corporate team, and really making sure that we're understanding the challenges and the opportunities from each other's vantage. Within that group, we have a task force that's really dedicated to the innovation and technology piece. So, we've within that group, even a smaller group that's really in the weeds, rolling up their sleeves alongside us to help us understand, really what are the challenges that they're facing every day? What's really happening out there, face to face with the clients and their families, and really prioritizing the things that will help them serve the needs of their clients, attract more clients, attract more caregivers, really grow their business and make it more profitable and fuel the next steps in their business journey. So there's a lot of that input from the field. We also have a lot of more, I'm going to say more horizontal perspective just within the industry. So whether it's talking to friendly competitors, whether it's talking to analysts within the industry, lots of industry groups, what's happening more broadly across the industry from a regulatory standpoint, from legislative standpoint. What are some of the challenges and opportunities that we need to think about that are maybe 3, 5, 10 years out, and how can we be in a position to best be prepared for them, best be ahead of them, and be really proactive with that regard. So those are two of the lenses that we look at. The other thing I think in being part of a franchise network is what are the solutions that we can bring at scale, really operationalize to the franchise system, and maybe what are a little bit more local, and that will give us really a good head start in terms of how we prioritize the things that we can do, and then what success looks like. Do we need to bring something that can be really repackaged and individualized, or is it something that we want to bring across that's more of a brand standard, or something that we want to do more large scale? And of course, we need to think about that in terms of what's the size of the business opportunity? Is this something we should prioritize? Is this in keeping with our business model? Is it in keeping with kind of our standards and the reputation that we have and want to maintain in the industry and in the community?
Okay, so thank you for that. That was a wonderful answer. Why is this so important? Why isn't it? Why can't we just do what we've always done? Why is it important to add technology and to be innovative? And why is that important right now to the future of this business? Why can't we just keep it the same as it's always been, Brady?
Boy, wouldn't things be nice if we could just do that? Well, you teed me up. The world's moving so fast and things are evolving, and you think just back, a year and a half ago, and artificial intelligence was, kind of theoretical and science fiction, and look where we are today. So there's just that continual evolution of business, continual evolution of healthcare, and the massive demographic shifts. And we can talk a little bit about that as we talk about some of these innovations. But the reality is, whether it's competition, whether it's the consumer expectation, whether it's the business environment that we operate in, any business leaders, any business unit leaders, really, anybody that's participating in society has to move with these changes. And while we're a well-established organization, I think we still have that heart and mind and spirit of a younger organization, and that in a lot of cases is also fueled by our franchisees and their motivation to make an impact personally, professionally, within their community to grow a business. That's in my perspective, kind of part of why you join a franchise network is you want to be really successful and have an impact and make a mark. And we want to be sure to be the kind of energized and active organization that supports that.
Yes. Okay. And while you were talking, there was a question that came in that I want to address. It says here, which, by the way, I want you to answer the first part first and then question next. So It says here, once you identify an innovation opportunity, how do you take it from an idea or concept to truly implement it in the offices where it makes sense? So I suppose if you can, and I know some of the stuff that you're doing is confidential, you don't want to announce it to the world, and then because it's still kind of in testing phase. So if you can give our audience maybe a couple of examples of what an opportunity is and how you launch it from an idea to an actual concept that's implemented into our system.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I think I'll talk a little bit about the process more broadly, and then give two examples, and one is kind of how do we take an idea that was born in a location and kind of make that cross-pollinate that versus kind of coming up with something more grassroots and trying to develop something and nurture it along. But the reality is that innovation is really a process, and it's not guaranteed, but your odds of success can continue by working this process. And that there's a lot of different flavors, whether it's design thinking or business model canvas. Those are kind of the more academic sides of it, but it ultimately comes down to a process of taking a problem and kind of identifying it, understanding kind of what the core root cause is, and then building a hypothesis between, if this happens, I think this is going to happen. And, when you develop that hypothesis, then you go out and test it. And it's if you do a good job of designing an experiment and designing a test, it'll either be true at the end, and, if I do this, this will happen. Or if I do this, something else happened. And then the next question is, well, why did that happen? And so on and so forth. So within this process, we want to build good tests and good experiments. We want to kind of make a number of small bets. And then as we get closer to something that we think is going to be borne out to be true, we want to invest more. So it allows us to try a lot of different things without putting all our eggs in one basket. It also allows us to learn along the way in a stepwise fashion. So we don't, build a whole concept with all the bells and whistles and then bring it out to market or bring it out to the system and find out that it doesn't work. Where if we do these small bets along the way, we can kind of solve through all these little wins and failures. So that's the, I think the high level question is really there's a process, and we apply that pretty rigorously. But the couple of things that we're working on, one was a personalized care model that was working really well in a business that we acquired, and we saw it really contribute a lot of top line and bottom line growth, a lot of caregiver support. It was really kind of a neat product or offering within this within this agency and community. So our goal is to take it, kind of keep what's magic around it, but also make it portable and understand what are the pieces of this that really make it special. How do we package it, and then be able to take that into the system and say, hey, here's how to do it, and here's the talent or the resources or the collateral that you'll need to do it. And then there's other ideas where we kind of say, well, here's a problem, and we don't have a solution for it. Let's start working through that process to figure out what it might look like, and then take that to whether it's one of our corporate locations or to a franchisee, and then start to test it through that experimental process with clients, caregivers, family members, whoever it's really designed to serve. So that's how I'd answer kind of from the process standpoint, and then kind of two origins that we're kind of working through on the development and innovation process.
Okay, so what I have heard so far, to kind of summarize some of the things that we've talked about. So if a new idea comes, at this point it's an idea. Not just something that you, Brady Schwab, say, hey, I think this is cool, let's do this and roll it out to the whole system. So there is a process in place that it's highly vetted and tested and discussed and reviewed and analyzed before anything is implemented. So I think that's important to know, not only you and all of us here on the corporate team, but even the Strategic Leadership Council, which, by the way, is a group of franchise owners that were voted on into a specific committee that we consult with on all big decisions that we make, especially decisions that affect the franchise owners directly. So there's lots of testing and vetting and all of that good stuff before it is implemented into the system. Another question that came in while you were answering that last question says here, as you talk to your peers and analysts in this space, what are the primary trends in tech that will shape this business in the next 3 to 5 years from a franchisee's vantage point?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I think from the franchisee vantage point, AI is going to be huge. And whether we talk to folks on the home health or medical or, really anybody along the healthcare continuum, the general consensus we get is that the first place AI is really going to impact us is in the business operations, in documentation and process. A lot of those that are maybe not directly, maybe they're client facing, but they're not care related initially. So I think that's going to be huge. Everybody kind of expects the care piece to evolve around whether it's reading images or taking large amounts of unstructured data and making conclusions and predictive analysis. And then it'll move into a little bit more of that direct care piece. And that's a lot more nebulous and cloudy. Certainly from my perspective, but from what I hear from a lot of folks that are a lot smarter than me. So as that relates to home care, I think that the technology piece is, what can we do to wrap around peace of mind, perspective, input in those hours that we're not in the home. And then again, that will evolve around, well, what can we do with that data that is more predictive in nature? How can we understand changes of state, changes of behavior based upon data rather than direct observation. And then how can we use technology to enhance the experience for caregivers and clients? And then ultimately move to, how can technology enable a caregiver to provide impact care and really quality of life to more clients on a per person basis. So that's the way I see it evolving. And franchisee, that's the perspective. I think the really important thing to consider, or that I'd want to add, and this comes back to kind of that innovation process and design thinking, really taking a real consumer end user perspective on this. The average age of our client is over 80, and they have a different, even still have a different perspective on technology, especially as it relates to monitoring data, taking in data, things like that. And we're still in the evolutionary period of our clients being really warm and accepting, or at least accepting, maybe not warm, to the application of data, or sort of technology that we'll report out on them. And that's a part of the aging process that's much more on the psychosocial. But that's one of the challenges that we're going to have to overcome. But we also have the demographics that are going to kind of meet us halfway. So that's part of what we're trying to solve for. How do we make that technology more a better part of improving their lives, and not just serving the purposes of their caregiver or their family or somebody else outside of them? How do we really make it a part of their life that's well accepted?
Yep.
Great question.
Yes. Okay, great. Great answer. Okay, so can you give our listeners some insight into what you and your team are working on right now, or maybe just like 2024 focus? Now that 2023 is behind us, and I know 2023 for you on this particular initiative was a lot of a building and learning and exploring kind of foundation year. But can you give us some insight into big plans for 2024?
Yeah, and really teased it a little bit, and the questions have really kind of poked around in this. Our main focus is really that personalized care concept that we have that's been really successful. How can we take that and integrate that more into the system? Because we really think that it could be a market differentiator. We think it could really support our unique value proposition. And at the end of the day, that's the core of our business, right? That personalized care and really being a part of somebody's home, part of their life, a part of their journey. So that's one of our focuses. The other is how do we leverage technology around that, both within that the business model of our traditional care, but also getting into the home sooner, providing wraparound care for those hours that we're not in the home. How do we make that technology easily implemented? How do we make it easily accepted? And how do we serve the needs of our franchisees as business owners and wanting to have a unique proposition? How do we support the families of the clients we serve, and of course, ultimately the clients? And that will really lead into more of our virtual care offerings. How do we extend upon that? How do we again, be more places, do more with less. And then we also think that this process and the detail that we'll really kind of uncover will lead us to some concepts around a subscription model or modular care or bundled care. So we've got a couple focuses, but they're also really going to provide some insight and some baseline foundation for some other concepts that we're exploring.
Okay, that's awesome. You gave me some really good nuggets there. And it's like you were waiting, Brady, until the very end to give. It's like the icing on the cake. We've got like less than 10 minutes left, but I have a couple questions for you and Great. Some of the last things that you just said. So you said getting into the home sooner. You said that phrase, which we say that quite often around here, here at the corporate headquarters. Can you explain what that means to our audience and why that's an important focus of ours?
Sure. So, like any business, we've got our sales funnel and kind of our core customer client that we serve. And as I mentioned before, it's typically somebody that's in their 80s. It's quite often, following a health event. Many times it's an older adult that has adult children that live out of town. So.
Yep.
That has been a little bit of who we've kind of served as our core client, but there's a lot of folks around that we can serve. And there's a lot of opportunity for us to, be a part of the care continuum earlier on, whether it's, pre health event or as somebody starting to slow down, how can we enrich or enhance their life with a little bit of support? And obviously, from a business perspective, that brings somebody into our fold that we can continue to work with over a longer period of time, and that leads to a larger lifetime value of a client, but also a stronger relationship. And I think as that relates to our role in the healthcare continuum, while we're not licensed and though folks will use the term not skilled, I think we're incredibly skilled. We're just not skilled nursing or things like that typically. Yep. We provide a tremendous value, healthcare value, when home care is a part of the aging process, and more people want to age in the home. You see whether it's home health or hospital at home, or more and more outpatients and recovery in the home. I think home care has a bright future around that participation in traditional medicine, home health, rehabilitation, kind of episodic care, and of course respite care and kind of companion care as some of the more traditional offerings that we have. So that was a long and maybe bountiful answer to that question, Jen, but I think that's a little bit of where our opportunity remains, and being a part of our clients' lives longer can really provide a lot of benefits, both for a business owner, but for the clients as well.
Yes, no, that answer was spot on. Just the answer I was looking for. Okay, so to summarize, you have mentioned a focus on that personal care concept and leveraging the technology around that, getting into the home sooner, virtual care offerings, subscription model, kind of bundled care. You're working on a lot of things, which, by the way, all of those things weren't even on our radar probably a year or more ago. So definitely lots of changes, lots of great things coming, constantly looking at ways to improve. As technology becomes more and more prominent in our lives, it's something that we have to infuse into our business model as we grow into the future. So now that we've got just a few minutes left, Brady, are there any final parting thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience?
I'd be remiss if kind of following your comment around, how much of this wasn't kind of on the radar, 18 months ago. I think, hats off to our leadership team, starting with Margaret as our CEO, and her vision to really be an innovative and learning organization, and being willing to try and be aggressive in our desire to get better, and to work our problems, and put resources behind this in the support of continuing the evolution of our organization and the industry. And that takes a lot of institutional courage. It also takes an organization that wants to get better, wants to measure and understand data, and set goals, and really be a high performing group of individuals. So I think hopefully that will continue to permeate throughout the franchise, and as new franchisees come in, wanting to really recognize that as an opportunity to grow and accelerate and really, move a business to scale.
Final question. That
Yes.
wasn't my final question. You thought, hey, this is it. Nope, sorry. We've got 2 minutes to spare, and I'm going to use them.
All right.
So for our listeners, the individuals that are exploring joining Right at Home, a lot of them are exploring other opportunities as well as they look to become an entrepreneur, either starting their own business or becoming part of a franchise. Can you give some comments around why Right at Home?
Mm-hmm. So, of course, you always do your due diligence, right? That never goes out of style. I think the reason I'm here, and I think that the thing that resonated both with me, I'm not a spring chicken, and making a jump of industries and organizations was a big deal for me. I think the opportunity to do what we do and to be of service to our communities and to seniors, and frankly, the market opportunity behind that is tremendous. And then the fact that the opportunity to do it with people, to develop teams, to build a culture. The culture at Right at Home is everybody knows what our values are. Everybody knows how to stand for them. We measure by them. We hire by them. We engage our team by them. To build that kind of business, I've worked in a lot of different kinds of businesses. This is a place to build that kind of business and have your thumbprint, your fingerprint on it, but have a blueprint for how to build that business. I think this is a tremendous opportunity, and I'm really proud to be part of this organization.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. 30 minutes flies by when you're having fun.
And this was fun. Sign me up again. I can't wait.
All joking aside, Brady, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time. I know our listeners do as well. I love doing Tuesday talks. Our conversation was great. Hopefully, if you're listening, you got some valuable information from Brady. Continue to work with your development director, and we'd love to have you join us on a future Tuesday talk. So thank you again, Brady.
Fantastic questions. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Have a great day. Goodbye.